Jewies are the ultimate lazy hunters. Their name in Yarralde, an Aboriginal dialect from South Australia, translates to the greatest one, and I must agree that Jewies are the greatest ones to dwell within our estuarine systems. This elusive fish traditionally seeks cover until they are confident in leaving their structure to hunt for prey. Jewfish have exceptionally large bony mouths and can easily devour a large mullet, pike, yellowtail scad or other similar bait fish. They are a silver to bronze coloured fish which are quite long, growing up to 2 metres in length. Although a typical school-sized fish found in estuaries will be between 75 and 95 centimetres. When the fish reach 75 centimetres in length, they have usually hit sexual maturity and are around 6 years old. The bigger models in excess of a metre are usually found in open waters, namely beach gutters and reef systems. Jewies have a large head, scales and tail, and a distinct lateral line running from behind their head to the start of their tail. This lateral line aids in the detection of distressed, fleeing or wounded bait. The silver ghosts are found both inshore in our estuarine systems of Australia and out on our reefs. Usually the bigger models, in excess of the magic metre, can be more readily found on the reefs at night. Jewies can be a very tight schooling fish, particularly in winter months, where they are often found in larger numbers. Jewies are prevalent in waters from as far as the Gladstone region in Queensland, right the way south down through New South Wales, Victoria, and west to South Australia, and up to Exmouth in Western Australia. How to catch the fish? Always arrive at your fishing destination prepared. Have all rods rigged up and ready with leaders and knots strength tested. Having multiple spare rigs made up and ready to accommodate varying live bait sizes is also important. You will need a 6'6" to 7' graphite rod with a 4,000 to 8,000 sized reel for bait fishing, or around a 4,000 sized reel for using lures. Bait runner reels are best when fishing with live or dead baits, as you can feed out line easily and, more importantly, allow the fish to freely take some line until it begins to pick up speed. Then, wind one rotation and the bait runner function will click into gear. Your reel's drag will then take over, which should be set at around 3/4 full. 10 to 12 pound braid when fishing for both flatties and jewies, or 20 to 40 pound braid and 20 to 40 pound fluorocarbon when fishing around decent structure. When fishing out on the reef system, start with 60 pound leader. You should use a rod length of fluorocarbon leader for shock absorption, tied on with an FG knot or similar. Never tie the braid directly to a swivel, as this will significantly decrease the breaking strain of your line and will be the breaking point if hooked up to a solid fish. The most productive estuary reef live or dead bait setup will be a running sinker rig consisting of a 2-hook snelled rig with mustard live bait size 6 hooks and a metre or so of fluoro or mono leader tied onto a black swivel that's attached to a rod length of leader for shock absorption. You should never tie the braid directly to a swivel, as this will form a breaking point. The shock absorption leader should be tied on with an FG knot. When fishing from a beach, use an 8 to 10 kilogram beach rod paired with a 6,000 to 8,000 sized bait runner reel. 20 to 40 pound braid and 20 to 40 pound leader again is the recommended breaking strain. Bigger models are over a metre are often caught from our beaches, and you do not want to be caught out with insufficient line class, especially if you hook a good fish. Fish gutters near river mouths on a rising tide, preferably one coinciding with first or last light. Live beachworms are a great bait to use on Australia's beaches. If you're able to catch some fresh ones, rig up on a 2-hook paternoster rig or single running sinker rig. Star sinkers will help keep your bait in the strike zone. Lure fishing. When fishing for jewies with lures, there are multiple options. However, 80 to 150 millimeter, 7 to 9 inch soft plastics are a go-to. Match these up with a 1/2 ounce, 1 ounce or 1.5 ounce jig head, depending on tidal flow. A key piece of information when fishing plastics for jew is to use a soft plastic with a big paddle tail when the water is moving slowly, and a smaller paddle tail or jerkbait style soft plastic in water that is moving at a faster rate. A big vigorous lift doesn't work, but a simple double lift or hop is quite effective, as this more closely resembles the movement of a wounded bait fish. Keep a semi-slack bow in your line when using the single lift technique, and watch this line closely for any movement or signs that a fish has the lure, such as a flick or a tightening of the braid. Control the slack on the fall and don't let the lure sit on the bottom for too long, 1 or 2 seconds maximum. As always, keep the rod and line straight and pay particular attention to your line management. Slow rolling lures can work well when the fish are sitting high in the water column. Remember to avoid jigging or erratic movements when fishing with plastics at night, as a constant, steady and somewhat slow retrieve will see the fish follow the lure before striking on the paws. Erratic movements can result in the plastic being removed away from the fish's line of sight due to the fact that their visibility during the night is restricted to a metre or so. When to catch the fish. The moon phase doesn't seem to affect Jewies too significantly. However, some moon phases can yield better results, such as the waxing moon phase or the new to full moon transformation. Jewfish have large swim bladders and as such are more susceptible to barometric pressure. Rising barometric pressure, however, once it drops to 1010 or below, bite periods can shut down. They are also viable daytime targets, pending a few variables such as boat traffic and bait selection. They love a slack tide, either high or low, with the high tide faring slightly better with catch rates. The hour either side of the high tide is my favourite time to fish, as this has seen a higher yield. Where to catch the fish? You can find them laid up around river mouths, rock walls, pipelines, beaches, reefs, including bait grounds, and deep holes with decent tidal flow. Big tides can limit the amount of fishing time that's available around river mouths. As soon as the slack tide period is done and the tide is ripping, conditions become increasingly more difficult to fish in. The timing of the tide is the most crucial factor when fishing for Jewies, as they are most active on the slack tide or slower tides. Bait fish will move around on the slack tide, which is precisely what the Jewies will be looking for, usually never moving too far from their structure. You'll have about 30 minutes of prime fishing time either side of the slack tide to fish, depending on the size of the tide. Bigger tides will see more current ripping through, which will mean less fishing time. Jewfish will reside in deep holes when the tide is running, as they seek shelter from the current. Outer edges of rivers contain deeper holes due to the natural processes of rivers running downhill by meandering. When a river flows, it will carry sediment downstream, and this sediment will be deposited where the flow is slowest, usually the inside of a riverbank. Subsequently, the outer edges of a river will undergo erosion or undercutting due to the faster flows of the river. Check your sounder to find these deep holes and search for the ones that contain bait. Finding the bait will be a key to success. When fishing the estuaries, you'll find that the silver ghosts venture into much shallower waters to hunt their prey under the cloak of darkness. Darkness boosts their confidence to hunt throughout areas that contain a water depth of below 5 metres. When fishing off the beach, target gutters that are close to a rock wall or river mouth, the closest beach gutter to a seaway entrance. The close-in reefs off the Gold Coast also fish well during winter. Target areas such as the Scottish Prince, Aquarius, 12 Fathom Reef, 24 Fathom Reef, South Stradbroke Island Artificial Reef, and the 17 and 18 Fathom Reefs as well. Tips and things to try. Fish your spots when boat traffic is limited. Jewies don't release that well, so take care of them. If you've caught your limit for a feed, leave them to fight another day. Try micro jigging or jigging soft plastics on the slack tide. If fishing from a boat, actively search for spooled up Jewies on your sounder. They will be relatively easy to identify with their large arches. Make a trip out to the close reefs in winter, where you will find specimens over the magical metre mark, but beware of whales. Take a quality LED headlamp with you when you go night fishing. When fishing at night, make sure that your navigation lights and all-round white light is visible. If you're using a gaff, make sure it's sharp, as Jewies have large scales that can be difficult to penetrate. Try pink or green jig head and apply S-Factor scent to your plastics for added attractant. Wrap your Jewie rigs around a cut up piece of pool noodle. Label the rig with a permanent marker for easy storage and use. When the hot bite is on, the last thing you want to be doing is wasting valuable time rigging up from scratch. Be sure to cut your motor well before you reach your spot and minimise sound as they can spook easily. Maximising your chances. Fish the peak bite times around the tide change, either high or low, when water movement begins to slow down. They can be caught all year round, although the winter months will see larger specimens and increased quantities of fish caught. The fish are not concerned with moon phases or the time of day. Live yakkers and mullet are the best two Jewie baits. Catching fresh live bait is an essential component to success. Always use a running sinker rig with a snelled size 6 or 7 mustard live bait hooks. Always be prepared when Jewie fishing, as you do not want to be wasting time rigging up when a hot bite is on. This will mean having multiple snell rigs made up and placed into marked Ziploc bags. I like to form a circle with the rig and bind with a tie that you would usually find with your freezer bags. This prevents tangles and makes for a quick re-rigging. Mastery fishing. At the apprentice level, fish caught over 75 centimetres, fish caught in season, on a soft plastic, on a live bait, on a butterfly dead bait, on the tide change, caught and successfully released, fish caught and no lure was lost in a single session, fish caught from an offshore reef, fish caught on a vibe. For the tournament angler, over 90, at night, slow pitch micro, fast pitch micro, fish caught out of season, on a live prawn, first and last cast, caught from an offshore reef at night, and caught from a beach. In the master and expert range, fish caught over a metre, fish caught with a swim bait from the stones, fish landed without a net or gaff from the stones, fish caught mid-tide, 2 fish in 2 casts, and fish caught on a bait jig.